So it's the first night out in Lima, and I got robbed with 3 people with guns. I've traveled for 20 years, so, you know, I mean, this stuff can happen. I'm fortunate that's my first day of a 4-week trip, but anything's possible, right? And so, yeah, I came in the evening before about 11:15, got to the hotel about 12:30. So obviously that night I didn't go out, I just crashed. And the next day we checked out Miraflores, which is kind of one of the main tourist areas. And we got lunch and kind of walked around and whatever. And then that evening I was going to meet a girl I was actually teaching English to just 2-3 months before. And so things in Peru usually go later. You know, like in the States, you might go out to dinner at like 7 and have some drinks and go home at like 10 or 11. I met her at 9:30, which is a little later than I wanted, but she had already ate and stuff. So we went out to Barranco and walked around a bit. And yeah, we weren't even out there for drinks. My buddy Charlie didn't want to drink, and she doesn't drink either, ironically. So I had a couple roadies on the way, and we actually, the only bar we stopped at was like an old man bar, like literally old man. Like it's just the oldest bar in Barranco or something, like 87-year-old bar. So yeah, I just had that one drink in that bar, and we rolled out at, you know, 12:15 or 12. And we're staying in between Miraflores and Barranco. So it's like, you know, a safe area. There's a lot of security in general. That's why my buddy chose that area for the Airbnb we stayed at. And we got off on the corner, not exactly where I was at, because it's only about, I don't know, 400 feet or a 2-minute walk down the road to where we're at. But it's a one-way road, and my friend, the girl, was going straight. So we're like, we'll just get out here. You know, we did a hug, we got one selfie. I assume that the guy in the car saw us there. And then he drove around the block down that one-way street and parked. As you can see in the video, the car is coming up. Yeah, so we're just walking down the street. We're just 100 feet to the Airbnb. That's why you can see my buddy banging on the door. It's because that's the Airbnb we were at. And those 3 guys jumped out of the car. I don't know why my friend, like, started to run away. Not the best plan, in my opinion. Because to be honest with you, you know, I got there the day before, and I've been telling him over and over a lot of the videos of people getting robbed in Latin America and like Colombia and Mexico and the different scams. And a lot of the scams are, you know, drugging foreigners out in bars, right? And some of those are related to like people you meet online on like Tinder. You go out, you meet a girl, she drugs you with this, I think it's called like scopamine or something, and you basically pass out and they take all your stuff, right? And so I was talking about the biggest scams, and I also mentioned the fact that like most people don't get killed unless you run away or resist. So if you try to take off in your car, if it's an armed robbery, if you're driving or whatever. And so I was even telling him, you know, just a couple days before we got there, this Asian American guy met some girl on Tinder in Medellin, Colombia, and you know, they went out and had some drinks and hung out, and at some point, he wasn't drugged, I don't think, but at the house, like a bunch of other people came and they kidnapped him, and it was only $2,000, which I assume the guy had. I'm guessing he was a, you know, an Asian American dude with, you know, some money. Like, I'm pretty poor, but I like $2,000 is not a big deal if I had to get that from like my family or friends if I didn't have it, for instance. So I think he was, you know, he probably tried to escape, and yeah, my buddy Charlie like ran for the door. Which I can understand, trying to get help or something, but he could have, not only for him to get shot, he did get hit in the head with the gun. He had to get stitches. And for me, I wasn't gonna move. I mean, there's 2 guys with guns in my faces, and I could tell they're yelling like, you know, don't try anything, because they could tell I looked over at my buddy, and you know, they knew what I was thinking too. Either resist or move, and I was like, it's just not worth it. I've got travel insurance, and actually even homeowners insurance covers some of these things. And so obviously I just kept my hands up, and they went through my pockets and took my GoPro, wallet, and my phone, and about $150, probably like 600 sols. So maybe like 170 or something like that. And so yeah, as you can see in the video, the guys got our stuff, they took off. You know, I even looked at the guns. They almost look like maybe they weren't real. I don't know, or they were old school. They weren't like standard, like new guns, like a Glock. It was like an old school revolver. But my buddy got hit in the head and was bleeding all over. So he definitely got hit in the head with a real gun. So either way, it's not like one of these things like, oh, well, is it real or not? Or is it this or that? No, you just got to be safe, right? And, you know, the insurance will cover some of it. And even if I lose $1,000, like, it's much better than being dead or in a hospital for months with, like, getting shot in the stomach or the leg or whatever. So we went inside. The door guard obviously called the police. The police came. We went down to the station. They were nice and everything. And we did the police report, which, to be honest, even at the beginning, I was like, why even go down to the police station? Like, I know they're not going to be able to do anything, right? But I wanted to get the police report to file for the insurance. And so that took, I don't know, almost 2 hours. And then because Charlie, my buddy, was bleeding, he went down to get the stitches and stuff at the hospital. And that was another, you know, hour and a half or two. So we didn't get home till, I guess, almost 5. And yeah, at least we're okay. No big deal. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It kind of taints my impressions of Lima, obviously, because, you know, it is a really beautiful city. You're right here on the ocean. Really nice spot. But yeah, that's a shame. And it's funny, too, because my buddy was saying how, you know, I was thinking of places to live in Latin America because I spent 15 years in Asia. And I was like, oh, Mexico's closer. I should, you know, choose that. And they're like, well, Mexico's much more dangerous. And I just did this, you know, 10-day trip in Mexico. I took a motorcycle around, climbed the highest peak, had a great trip. And of course, anything can happen there too. I just got lucky and nothing happened, right? And then my first night out in Lima, I get robbed. You know, it's like, and we weren't even like super hammered or doing anything dumb. Like, we took a cab home. I should have obviously gotten out, you know, right at the hotel. I know when I was traveling in some cities in Africa, like Nairobi, it'd be like, you get the scooter directly to the hostel, not even the 100-foot walk, you know? So I would say you should practice that routine if you're going to some of these cities. So is this very common in Peru or other places? I don't think it's super common. The police mentioned that they hadn't, like, an armed robbery in a few months. There was about 4 foreigners about 3 or 4 months ago that got robbed in that area. But armed robbery is not like super common with foreigners in Miraflores or something like that. So we definitely got unlucky there for that happening on our first night. I think this kind of thing's a little bit bigger in, I'd say, Colombia lately. And like I mentioned, in Medellin, in Mexico, but I think it could happen anywhere. Lima is a huge city. You know, it's I think one of the top 3 biggest cities in Latin America. I think Mexico City and Sao Paulo and Lima are 3 of the biggest. So any big city like this got, you know, desperate poor people. So anyway, we'll get our motorcycles tomorrow and still roll out of town, you know, do the same trip. I obviously had to buy a GoPro yesterday. And I had to get a used phone for my friend. And I'll have to buy a wallet too. Carrying around loose cash isn't the best thing. We luckily got the footage from the apartment we were staying at, and we went to the apartment next door, actually, see if we could get that footage as well. And they mentioned that although they have the cameras, it's not recorded, it's only live. And we also asked the cops, like, if they do get other footage, if they could send it to us, and they said they couldn't because it's part of an investigation and they can. So obviously, I wouldn't expect anything to come of it. I'm sure if they even do get the license plate, which they'll have, it's going to be on either a stolen car or like temporary plates or something. So, you know, at least we're okay. No big deal. Like I said, I've been traveling over 20 years to over 40 countries across Asia, Middle East, Africa, other parts in South America, the States, mostly on bike or motorcycle, most of those trips. And so, yeah, it's going to happen after, you know, over 20 years. It could have been worse. So, like I said, my buddy, you know, kind of running like that, it's like, geez, man, they could have just been like, you know, pulled that trigger. And I'm sure the only reason why they didn't is because in that area, obviously it is touristy, there's quite a big police presence around, and they might have been easier caught, but it's like, why take the risk, right? I was also going to mention another thing about the situation, because a lot of people have been asking me questions, and a couple of people asked me about the girl I was with, and also about the cab driver, like if they were in it. So I didn't know this girl randomly. I was actually teaching her English in the United States just a couple months before in Denver, Colorado, and she's a doctor. Like, she came to class with her, like, you know, doctor's gown on and stuff. So I don't think she's running a scam on me, obviously. And who do you think took me the next day to go pick up all the shit I needed? Like the GoPro 12, She let me use the phone, and she had to drive me around half the day, right? The SIM card and all that stuff. So definitely she's not in on it. I don't think the cab driver was either. We initially used Uber or one of the other apps, and he had just passed us, and he was going to take him, like 10 minutes to make this big loop because the traffic was big. So we did get just a taxi on the side of the road, like a beat up taxi. Young guy. My friend obviously speaks Spanish, and she's in the front seat, and she's just kind of mentioning, from what I understand, like the general vicinity. We were going to get dropped off, and then she was going to get dropped off after that. We were in Barranco at that time, so we were going to stop in Miraflores, and then she was just going up and going straight up to another suburb a little bit above Miraflores. But I didn't hear him talking. Like, it wasn't like he jumped on the phone and was like speaking Spanish or anything, and obviously she would hear if there was anything weird there. I think those guys just, when we got out of the car at the corner near where my hotel was, they might have been just driving around, saw us get out. We waited a couple minutes because she didn't end up keeping that cab. She ended up going with like an Uber or whatever. And so we waited a couple minutes, we got that photo, and I don't know. I mean, could that guy have called someone? I guess. But I think it's more of like just crime of opportunity. They were just driving around looking for people. And even if they didn't see us there, they might have just drove up that road and they see two people down the road, because you could see us on camera, from the beginning of the video. And so maybe they just stopped in general to see who it was, to see if like it's worth it, right? And it might have not even been just because like we're white or whatever. It could have been, they might have robbed a local person depending on the situation. Because this is just, a week before Christmas and a lot of people need money. And I've been watching on TV. We've been sitting in restaurants at various times watching TV, and there's just rolls of footage of people getting robbed, like local people. So this isn't only a foreigner thing too. And the other thing I'll add about this is about the refugee issue. Venezuelans are like the biggest group in the world that are refugees right now. There's like 7 or 8 million. I assume most of them were in Colombia or, heading up to the States. And there's about 1.7 million in Colombia. And there's actually 1.5 million in Peru. And so I had no idea there was that much. So you could imagine that most of them would go to Lima. And if you could even get a job, you're going to be working for what? Half the price of what a local's getting paid. So, I mean, if you could even find a job. So you've got, hundreds of thousands of broke people probably sitting in Lima that, need to get cash some way. So it doesn't excuse the actions. I'm just saying that they might have not even been from this country.
Hi, Caesar. What's your name? Caesar. Caesar, yeah.
Do you have pistol rentals too? Do you have pistol rentals? Can we rent a gun from you?
No. Pistol rentals? Pistol? No. I know army here. Yeah.
I'm joking. It's just.
Okay, great.
I would feel better if I had a gun for some reason.
Oh, sure. All right.
So I'm not gonna let a few punks ruin my trip. We're gonna roll out today and head down the coast towards Bolivia, and then come back and see some cool sights. So if you want to see some more cool videos, subscribe. I'll see you down the road.